Hey, this is Mr. B, and I want to just show you how to do the work together problem for 8-1. It's very simple to do. We're taking a look at the adjustments that you would make on a worksheet. And when you're preparing a worksheet, you prepare adjustments, and one thing that we're not doing in Aplia, which is pretty standard when you're doing it by hand, is marking each transaction with a letter in parentheses. This basically tells you that this was the first transaction, transaction A, and this is the debit transaction, this is the credit transaction. This tells you right here that this is the second transaction here because it's letter B, and this is letter B, so they match up. One of the big problems with a worksheet is that it is a temporary document that is used to help prepare your ending balances. But a lot of times we forget to include these balances in our ledger. So we need something that would help us include that into our ledger to figure out the final balance. So in order to do that, we need to prepare what is called adjustments. Now, you'll typically do this on a brand new page. We're doing this on page 4 of a journal, and there's going to be no source document for this because what happens is when you're preparing this on a worksheet, this is the source document. So we can't necessarily label it like memorandum number 2 or check number 101 like we normally do. So in order to let our people who might be auditing, making decisions, or accountants or managers know what exactly these entries are on the new page, we label this as adjusting entries. So this takes the place of labeling it as our source document. The next thing we do is we take a look at the adjustments column right here, and we try to figure out one transaction at a time. What is the debit entry? What is the credit entry? Because this has the letter A next to it, this is the very first transaction, so we have to journalize this. We need, first of all, a date. So July 31st is the date that we have right up here. So we're going to put down July 31st, and then we have to find, with that transaction that happened, which is the debit amount, because we always put the debit amount first. That was supplies expense for $713. So we're going to put down supplies expense, and we will debit that for $713. Okay, when we go back, we find a corresponding entry here with also a little letter A next to it, and it is credited for $713 because we know that if you debit something, you have to credit something in accounting, and that's going to be supplies, which is credited for $713. So we're going to go and we're going to click on supplies. We're going to do $713. Okay, that's it for right now. Next thing we do is we find the second transaction, which is letter B, and we look for the first item that is debited under letter B right here, and this is insurance expense for $300. So we'll go right here, we'll put down the date, which signifies the new transaction, we'll put down insurance expense, and we will debit that for $300. Once again, there's no source document here because this was prepared in a worksheet, and we've also labeled it as adjusting entries. We need to find the credit entry, and so we look, and right here we see that prepaid insurance is credited for $300. So we're going to go and type in prepaid insurance, and we're going to type in $300. Okay, we would look on our worksheet, and there's no other adjusting transactions here, so there's no letter C, so we're done. The next step would be posting. So you would need to find supplies expense, and here in your list, so you need to use the drop-down menu here. Let me just use that. Here we go, supplies expense. We're going to put down July 31st. Remember, right here we put the page number. We get the page number from the top left or right-hand corner, which is page 4. We're going to put in this has been debited for $713. If there's no balance and we debit something for $713, then automatically it becomes a debit balance of $713. And then we take this right here, account number, and we put it in our post reference column to let everybody know that that's where we got the information from. Alright, the next account is supplies. So we're going to go to supplies, we'll put down the 31st, we'll put down page 4, that's where we got the information from, and it's credited for $713. Now you could do the math which is very helpful. So if you wanted to do the math, we know that opposite subtract and would have a normal debit balance. But there's also something else that you can do. If you look at your worksheet and you see that supplies has an adjustment of $713, its ending balance should be $250. So you can look right on the worksheet for that. And so when I do the math and I do that, I actually get $250. Okay, so I can just get that by looking right here. Alright, so then what I do is I put down 140 and I'm done. Next transaction here is I'm going to post for insurance expense. So I go and I look for insurance expense. So I got to use these double arrows right here. And I'm going to put down July 31st. Got it from page 4. And I'm looking right here, and insurance expense is debited for $300. It doesn't have a balance right now, so anytime that we debit something for $300, it would be a debit balance of $300. And then we put the account number up top, which is 520. Alright, moving on, we got prepaid insurance, so we're going to look. Here's prepaid insurance. We're going to put down the 31st. We got it from page 4. And our transaction right here, it says that it was credited for $300. Once again, I mean, this is very simple math right here, but we could also check that here on our sheet. We could see, okay, there's a $300 adjustment. It was credited for $300, and it should have a $900 balance, which we have right here. And then last but not least, we want to put the account number up top there for $150. So that's how you make the adjusting entries. Once again, just a brief review. There's no source document right here. You put a title instead for adjusting entries. You basically get the information right here from the worksheet, and it's labeled with a letter in parentheses, which will tell you what is the first set of transactions, what's the second set. You go ahead and you put them and you journalize them in your journal, and then you go through and you post them. The balances right down here, it's very important that yes, you can do math, but your balances should also match with what is on the worksheet, which we saw in this particular instance right here.